China will be tracking everyone with a health app by 2025 and say bye-bye to your health privacy and say hello to Black Mirror China Edition. And later we'll talk about the GOP infighting over who should become leaders. Welcome to State of Politics. I'm David Zhang. Things are getting a little bit more ridiculous every single day. The 13 billion people-sized prison called mainland China will be treating everyone like branded cattle. By 2025, one phone and one QR code will be realized under the CCP's digital totalitarianism. According to a recent notice from China's National Health Commission, the country will implement a universal health code app, evolved from its existing COVID tracking app. The color of your QR code will determine your life. And if you are green, you can go and live. If you're yellow, probably being watched. And if you're red, well, say bye-bye to life. According to this notice, all provinces, autonomous regions, and municipalities directly under the central government, which is pretty much everything, will implement a universal COVID tracking app. But in the near future, an app that tracks all health conditions. Right now, each province has its own version of the COVID app, but in the near future, everybody's going to have the government standard. In the United States and many Western nations, the violation of health privacy is a serious issue. And in fact, many times it is a secret between, well, the information between a patient and their doctor. There's nowhere for the government to be involved in this process except maybe provide the actual healthcare benefits or the adequate support. But in China, things are very different. Not only are they going to track you, but they will also know everything about your health. Did you have a stroke in the last 18 months or had a heart surgery? Or maybe you were unable to conceive kids? All of these could factor in terms of what they can do to limit you or evaluate you. Are you worthy to society? Will you actually be able to perform at a job? Well, maybe perhaps they'll start limiting you from getting jobs, social gatherings, public movements, or perhaps even barring you from leaving your house. Because there's no limit as to what they can actually implement, as the government can now access your health information. And some people online have already received and, after hearing this news, reacted quite negatively or sarcastically. Some suggested that China could even track if a couple is having their third child, as the government in recent years finally allowed and encouraged Chinese parents to have more than one kid. And a policy expert suggests that this is actually to fill the drastic population decline since 2020. I wonder why they're having a population shortage. If only there was a reason for this. Anyways, Chinese internet users are quick to point out that this is Chinese leadership's obsession with Black Mirror, a popular show that basically exposed what the CCP has been doing, like adding the social credit scores for people, or now having the health app to track you. Or just they like to see every citizen as a number on a cow, or they are the cow. When you treat your citizens like animals, it's no wonder some say the CCP, China, is just a giant human zoo. The zookeepers, aka Communist Party officials, are busy herding the cows around, milking them. But others have also described the situation in China as cutting chives, where when you grow too tall, the regime's sickle is ready to harvest you. If we know China is committing the crime of organ harvesting on its Falun Gong and Uyghur populations, then what would a health app do, well, that regularly checks on your health conditions to, say, the organ supply market in China? Sounds pretty serious. What about pushing and exporting this type of healthcare control system as a package to other dictators and even perhaps Western nations? China is great at playing that, right? Like a great salesman. They will tout the health app as a pure health for your people app and its entirety with the system rather than saying what it actually is for, which is control. China is trying to digitize totalitarianism. From the first inception of security cameras in Chinese cities to the AI and facial recognition technology to the massive censorship firewall on the internet, with each step, China has concentrated its grip on ideology and control. Citizens are already self-censoring in fear of being taken away, but apparently that's not enough. China in recent years also introduced the social credit system, and basically that's if you have a low social credit score, you can't do anything in society. Now they have one for your health. That's basically accompanying the social credit system to further limit your movement. Personal liberty is not a thing in China anymore. And despite all this, there's a huge potential for exploitation on the internet. In fact, China's privacy registry is not secure at all. In July this year, there were rumors that on the internet that 1 billion Chinese residents' ID information had leaked. They were hacked from a police registry in Shanghai. In one of the most expensive and impactful breaches of personal data of all time, attackers grabbed data for almost 1 billion Chinese citizens from the Shanghai police database. Basically, it's connected to the entire country, and they attempted to extort the department for about $200,000. Now, this trove of data contains names, phones, they got government ID numbers, and police reports. And researchers found that the database itself was a secure system, but that a management dashboard was publicly accessible from the open internet, allowing basically anyone with small amount of technological understanding to be able to just grab the information without needing a password. And China was memorably responsible for the United States Office of Personnel Management breach and the Equifax Credit Bureau breach, among many others in the world. And it also keeps a trove of data from other nations on other people's citizens' information. In fact, some reports suggest that Chinese companies have been collecting DNA information in some instances on pregnant women. BGI, which is a biogenetic firm from China, was selling prenatal tests around the world, developed in collaboration with the country's military, and used this as a way to collect genetic data from millions of women for sweeping research on the traits of populations. Taking all of these things into account, not only does China control its own citizens' information now, but they have things on everybody. And guess what? None of it is secure. Now China can further implement health measures inside China, but I think actually their goal is to ultimately make sure that this health app system is implemented worldwide so that China can just basically know everything about everybody, anytime, anywhere. Now let's talk about the GOP leadership. Well, we haven't seen the last of the election results in Arizona and Nevada to count to completion, and Georgia is halted until the runoff election in the Senate race on December 6th. We're already getting a lot of information and a load of drama, GOP infighting, in terms of what the leadership positions will look like for the next Congress. Today, Marco Rubio, the Florida senator who just won his re-election, tweeted this, quote, "The Senate GOP leadership vote next week should be postponed. First, we need to make sure that those who want to lead us are genuinely committed to fighting for the priorities and values of the working Americans of every background who gave us big wins in states like Florida." Josh Hawley, who is a senator from Missouri, echoed and basically agreed with Marco Rubio. Quote, "Exactly right. I don't know why Senate GOP would hold a leadership vote for the next Congress before this election is finished. We have a runoff in #GA Senate. Are they saying that doesn't matter? Don't disenfranchise Herschel Walker." Hawley has been also pretty critical of the GOP midterm election agenda, saying that it was ineffective from the Washington Republicans. Senator Josh Hawley has completed his autopsy and basically offered to his party's leaders for consideration. And the top line is this: the failure is all their own fault. Hawley, who I think is one day trying to run for president, believes that Republican Party offered voters plenty in the ways of generalized grips about Democrats and President Biden, but no actionable alternatives. And Hawley blames that on what he calls Washington Republicanism, specifically Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, and he also thinks that it was a bad idea to talk about making changes to Social Security and Medicare, for example. So it sounds like Senate Republicans are not favored to keep Mitch McConnell as their leader in the next Congress in January. And it's obvious given the massive underperformance of the GOP Senate candidates, especially the ones that Mitch McConnell, the current Senate GOP leader, poured money into. For example, in Colorado, John Odea, who lost his bid for Colorado Senate against incumbent Michael Bennet, was an anti-Trump candidate. Mitch McConnell put $1.25 million behind Odea through his Senate Leadership Fund. Fortunately, Odea lost. McConnell also put millions into the Alaska Senate race between two Republicans. He backed sitting Senator Lisa Murkowski, who is another anti-Trump candidate, and he got this money behind her, against Kelly Tshibaka, who is a pro-MAGA candidate. So this, combined with pulling money from Arizona's Blake Masters for the GOP Senate bid there, have drawn a lot of criticisms from within the Republicans. And Mitch McConnell isn't the only one who is under fire within the GOP. House Leader Kevin McCarthy for the GOP, who is also being blamed for the underperformance in the House races. McCarthy is running for the House speakership as Republicans are projected to win the majority, but despite a slimmer margin than predicted. They are trying to push McCarthy up. But if they do, McCarthy could still be challenged on his ability to lead, given the results we've seen so far. And of course, several reasons have been indicating this. One of them is the GOP underperformance from polling data, which suggested that there was going to be a red tsunami. And McCarthy has said that they will not impeach Biden, which could actually be indifference to some of what the other GOP members are thinking. And McCarthy, like McConnell, is what some say a member of the DC Uniparty. And whether that's true or not, it's not really up to me to judge, but what I see is there's objective facts stating that McCarthy has led the GOP to underperform in the House, and in the Senate, McConnell. So who is the one to blame in a year where there's no presidential election to kind of carry the ballot, right? Virginia GOP Congressman Bob Good, Arizona Congressman Andy Biggs, and Texas Congressman Chip Roy, along with a few other GOP representatives, have been tweeting in opposition to McCarthy's House leadership bid, or House speakership bid. But despite some not saying it directly, they're still voicing concerns as, for example, the House Freedom Caucus, their garnering the support seems to be leaning more toward not McCarthy for speakership, and it's becoming increasingly important to get the 44 votes from that House Freedom Caucus. So Andy Biggs, Bob Good, and Chip Roy are members of the Freedom Caucus, and they, like I said, have 44 members, which is a huge part of the GOP in the House. And Matt Gaetz, who is not currently a member of the House Freedom Caucus, is also voicing his opposition against Kevin McCarthy. And of course, we know that since Democrats will likely vote no along the party line over the bid for the speakership, Republican votes will matter much more for McCarthy or anybody that wants to be speaker. But if Kevin McCarthy doesn't get the slim support from his own party, then the GOP has the opportunity to basically veto until they get the right candidate for the bid of the speakership. And in fact, some Democrats are ready to endorse Liz Cheney for the speakership. Of course, Liz Cheney lost her current House seat, but she is still able to become the Speaker of the House, since it's not constitutionally mandated that the Speaker be a member of the House, right? Meaning that anybody, pretty much, including Trump or DeSantis or anyone that they want to nominate, can be the Speaker if they get enough support. So both GOP chambers will be seeing fierce competition over the leadership positions, and we're going to see less noise in the Senate for now, since it's still uncertain who will win the majority. And so there could be a chance that the Senate is still retained by the Democrats, but it comes down to Arizona, Nevada, and Georgia's December 6th runoff election, meaning that both parties, Democrats and the GOP, will have to win 2 out of the 3 Senate races to claim a majority. And some of the potential frontrunners to challenge Kevin McCarthy inside the Republican Party include Texas Congressman Chip Roy, Kentucky Congressman Thomas Massie, and Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan. And in the Senate, we could see that Marco Rubio could be contending for leadership seat, as well as somebody else from Florida, Senator Rick Scott, who is also currently the campaign chief for the Senate GOP, and perhaps from Missouri, Josh Hawley as well. The way to speakership is actually chosen based on majority voting in the House, meaning that all 435 members of the House have to vote on the speaker, and we know that Democrats are all going to vote no, right? Meaning that McCarthy's speakership really just is depending on that slim number of GOP votes if they get over the 218 threshold. And for anybody else to challenge McCarthy on this is pretty much pretty easy. You just have to get a certain number of votes within the GOP to support you. Now, that basically means like 7 to 8 congressmen to support you instead of Kevin McCarthy, and then you have your chance. So the question is, what does chaotic infighting within the GOP tell the Democrats? And does it actually benefit the GOP at all to have a different speaker? That, I don't know, and we'll have to find out. So that's it for today's State of Politics. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode, and if you did, please leave a like and comment what you'd like to see next, but also make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. We have videos pretty much every single day, and so stick around with us. We'll be covering a lot of topics for the next time and year to come. Thanks so much for watching tonight. Take care. Bye-bye.